Hey folks, Todd here. Today we're going to install the SRL headache rack from Backrack on this 2020 Ram 2500. The tools I'll be using for this installation are a ratchet with 3 sockets, a 1 1/8 inch, a 15/16, and a 3/4, an electric impact driver with a 5/16 socket, a wire stripper crimper, a T25 Torx wrench, a test light, and a heat gun. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're starting off with the rack face down. This way we are exposed to the side that faces the cab of the truck. Just to get you oriented properly, this is the top of the rack, so that makes this the driver's side and this the passenger side. We also have a couple of cutouts for our lights, and we do have to power those lights. We have a cable to run power to those lights. To wire them together, we've got an opening here and here, so we can have that cable pass through the hollow inside the frame here. And to get them down to the bottom of the truck, we'll go through this hole here, run down this hollow, and come out here to go down to the bottom of the truck. All right, so what we're going to start with, this is our driver's side connector. This is our passenger side connector. We need to go ahead and run through here, get our passenger side connector on the passenger side from the driver's side. So we're just going to fish it through like so. And now we've also got to run the rest of the cable down through here. Before we do that, we want to first run a grommet through our cable, because the grommet has to go into this location here. So what we're going to do is run the cable through the grommet. We're just going to fish it down to this hole down here. Just go ahead and start feeding that through. Now before we get too far, I'm going to go ahead and get our other grommet set in place through here. Now we can just go ahead and fish it all the way through. All right, once we've got our cable all the way through, go ahead and set our grommets into these holes. All right, now let's go ahead and set our lights in place. All right, so here's our LED light that's going to be in here. It comes with its own grommet. So what we're going to do is push your grommet in first. So that's going to go in from the front to the back. And when you push it in, just push it kind of all the way through. And there's a little ridge that's going to catch on the inside of the frame. Once that's caught in place, you can go ahead and take your light and feed it up in. Now, one thing I like to do is take a look at my harness and see where the harness is going to plug in, to make sure that it's going to plug in a good place for the harness. So I don't want to set it like this. I'm going to have it like that. Let me go ahead and take off my tape. And what you're going to do is just kind of force one side in at a time and push it up into place. Just like so. And then we can go ahead and plug in our harness. All right. It might not be a bad idea to put a little dielectric grease on those connectors, just to make sure you don't have any water issues later down the road. Repeat the same on the opposite side and coil up any kind of remaining wire harness. All right, now we're going to go ahead and install our backing plates. Make sure you got it lined up properly. We got 3 holes in the backing plates, so we're going to line up to 3 holes in our frame. So let's go ahead and get those lined up. And we've got some self-tapping screws in our kit that we're going to use a 5/16 socket and impact driver to put them in, just using electric impact. I like to get them all started before I tighten any of them down. Repeat the same on the opposite side. Okay, so now we've got our rack stood up. This is the side that's going to be facing towards the tailgate. Now you'll notice these 2 holes down in the corner, they're for specific models. Our truck is going to be using this hole right here. This is our rail mounting bracket. You notice we've got an oval shaped hole. What we're going to do is line up this oval shaped hole to the hole we'll be using and get it centered on that. This is going to cradle the rack. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this up, slide this in place, and drop that in. Now this is oval so that it can be centered. What we're going to do now is connect our hardware. We've got a long carriage bolt is going to go in from this side. We're going in from this side because this is going to be pretty close to glass, so we don't want to have this bolt going in the other way because you don't want to damage your glass or your cab. Next, we're going to go ahead and take our washer and our nylock nut, and we're going to put all that together and get it on there finger tight. Don't tighten it down all the way just yet because we still need to be able to adjust it side to side when we put it onto the truck. All right, now repeat the same for the bracket on the opposite side. Okay, here we are on the driver's side up at the front of the bed. You'll notice we've already got the stake pocket cut out. If you just trace the area where the stake pocket cutout highlight is on the bed cap, it'll come right off, and then the opening is actually a bit smaller. But that's fine because it all gets covered up. Directly underneath here, we've also got an oval hole underneath that stake pocket. Now, I've got a bed rug and I've got it kind of tucked back away. If you have a drop-in plastic bed liner, we do recommend that you remove that before you do this step. So next what we're going to do is get our stake pocket bolt. It's basically the bolt welded onto another bolt that's a fatter diameter bolt. What we're going to do is we're going to take our washer. This is a smaller of the two washers that fit over this bolt. Go over top of the bolt, and we're going to drop it down into the stake pocket, turn it sideways and bring it out. We want to make sure that we keep it up at the top of the oval. Then we're going to take our other washer, so larger the two washers that fit over this bolt, fit it over top of there, then take our lock washer and our nut, and we're going to tighten that down, hand tight for right now. Again, make sure you hold the bolt and pull it straight up while you tighten that down. All right, repeat the same on the opposite side. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take our rail plate. These are side specific. You'll notice that the oval hole is offset towards the front on the driver's side. Also, this is going to be diving towards the outside of the vehicle, and the oval hole is also going to be offset towards the inside of the bed of the truck too. Now on the bottom here, I've already gone ahead and installed a couple of our double stick pads. And you just want to make sure it's mostly centered up here and mostly centered down here. It doesn't have to be exact. And then we're going to go ahead and peel off the adhesive on each side. And fold that over and line it up. You want to make sure that this is centered, the bolt is, and bring it down to contact the bed cap. Next, we can take our tonneau adapter plate. Now this, I've already gone ahead and attached our sticker to. That sticker goes to the outside. Also on the back side here, it's gonna have a slight angle. All of these holes will be offset to the inside of the vehicle. So these are side specific as well. Also on this, on the bottom side, I have already attached a couple pieces of double face adhesive. And what we're gonna do is peel off the adhesive protector on both sides. Now what we're going to do as we slide this down, we're going to go to this second hole from the front, and we're going to install it with the bolt all the way to the inside of that oval hole. And we're going to bring it down and make sure the rail is nice and straight. Now go ahead and repeat the same process on the opposite side, then we can go ahead and grab our rack with a bracket and set it on top of our bolts. All right, now we can go ahead and attach our washer, lock washer, and nut. All right, once we have everything all lined up and centered where it needs to go, we can go ahead and tighten down all of our hardware. We'll start with our bed bolts. Those are going to be tightened down with a 1 1/8. These will be tightened down with a 15/16, and our carriage bolts are going to be tightened down with a 3/4. All right, repeat the same tightening sequence on the opposite side. All right, now that we've got the back rack all tightened down and installed exactly where we want it, we can work on the electrical. So what we're going to do is take this wire and route it down the bed back to the rear tail light on the driver's side. And we're going to fasten it loosely with zip ties along the frame. Make sure you keep it away from any kind of moving parts or any type of exhaust. now we're going to go ahead and wire it up this hole straight to the bottom of the taillight. All right, now to pull off the tail light, we've got the tailgate down. Right here and here are two bolts that need to come out. Those come out with a T25 Torx bit. So go ahead and pull those out. All right, now that those bolts are out, what we need to do is pull it loose from the connectors inside. So we want to pull it straight back. Do not pry it off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and pull the harness free. All right. Now to disconnect this harness, you'll notice we got a red tab. We need to pull back on the red tab. That unlocks the harness, and then the U-shaped tab that's here, we need to pull on the bottom of the U, so push down on that and then pull it apart. All right, so went ahead and pulled our back rack cable up through our taillight opening. Now I'm going to quickly go over these. We're going to go over a little more detail whenever we get into wiring these things up. But basically our white wire is going to be our ground. Brown is going to go to our taillight. Yellow is our stop turn for the driver's side, and green is a stop turn for the passenger side. Now the reason why the passenger side stop turn is different is because what that does is it allows us to connect to the extension to go over to the passenger side and wire it up, but we're going to wire it up the same way we're wiring into here. Now the way I'm going to find which wire to go into is I'm going to use a test light. Now this test light is going to hook up to a ground location underneath that's connected to the frame, and then this can come up and I can start probing the different holes and figure out which one of these are going. So I can turn on the turn signals and see which one causes this to flash, and so on and so forth. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and check for our running light. We've already gone ahead and turned on the headlights of the vehicle, so the tail light should be illuminated. Of course, I've got that unplugged, so we're going to go ahead and start probing. It's not that one. Oh, there we go. That one's turned on, so it looks like this is our running light. Let me just double check, make sure nothing else illuminates. And we're good. So we can go ahead and wire in our running light to this wire here. All right, so here is the connector that comes in our kit that splices into our wire. So what you're going to see is we got a little bit of a V-notch cut out right here. That's, if you never used this kind of connector before, basically it goes over top of the wire and then closes down. And then what you're going to do is take pliers or some type of a crimping tool, squeeze it together, and it will click. When it's done that, it basically cuts into the wire and makes connection to the metal in the center. Now let's go ahead and hook up our brown wire to the connector in the kit. Now this is a heat shrink butt connector. I've already gone ahead and stripped away some material from the end. What we're going to do is just slide that straight in so that the wire goes into the metal connector on the inside. And then what we're going to do is crimp that down. All right, now we're going to use the heat gun to shrink down the heat shrink. All right, I went ahead and did my heat shrink spade connectors to the other two wires. Now let's go ahead and find our turn signal in our harness. Now we've already got our hazard lights turned on. So what we're going to do is start probing to see where our hazard light is. Oh, there's our hazard light. Let's make sure it's nowhere else. All right, so there it is. So this is our wire that we need to tie into. We're going to tie into it the exact same way that we did this one. All right, now one thing I want to point out is I did call this the driver's side turn stop and this the passenger side turn stop. If your truck has the same element for the turn signal as for the brake light, then yes, whenever you hook them up, it is a turn/stop. If you have a turn signal and a stop light on two different bulbs, then you will need to use one of the two. So pick one you want to do. We went with the turn signal. So when we hook this up, it's going to be the turn signal up on the back rack that illuminates, not the brake light. All right, so the last wire we need to hook up on here is to the ground. So I've got the headlight already turned on, so the tail light should have energy going to it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of sacrificial wire, fit it in there. I've got it hooked up to the end of my test light, and now I'm going to check to see, okay, this one right here is a ground, so that means that we can tie right into this wire here. All right, let's go ahead and plug them all in. All right, and lastly, we're going to go ahead and attach this cable here. We're going to run this down across over top of our hitch receptacle and over to the passenger side taillight, and we're going to wire this in to the turn signal on our passenger side taillight, just the same way we did this turn signal over here. Then we can go ahead and put our tail lights back on the same way we removed them. Well, we went ahead and tightened down our zip ties and secured everything out of the way, and that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts or visit us online at RealTruck.com.